In the first video analysing Daniel Cahill's statement to An Garda Síochána in New York back in 2019, one thing becomes immediately clear and abundantly clear is that multiple of the critical facts of what happened at the modern robbery scene, Cahill gets them completely wrong. His account and his attempt to implicate Aaron in the modern robbery at Lordship Credit Union doesn't align at all with what actually happened at the car park at Lordship Credit Union. Now, we have to be very, very clear here. This is not a case of memory lapse. It's a fabrication, it's a fantasy, and it's a tissue of lies spoken by Daniel Cahill, who has obviously been put under pressure and is coerced into giving this false testimony. And it's obvious that his account is orchestrated. It is prompted on numerous occasions by members of An Garda Síochána, most notably Paul Gill, and then later on in the second interview, which we will analyse in the upcoming videos. Second interview Daniel Cahill gave on the 29th of July 2018. Daniel Cahill we can see quite clearly, is being prompted by Jim McGovern to steer the right narrative in relation to those critical facts Cahill got completely wrong in the first video of the statement being taken on the 25th of July, 4 days earlier. So before we move on to that statement, Cahill's second statement, what we want to do is we want to look at and ask a very, very crucial question. Is Daniel Cahill a credible witness? Is Daniel Cahill fit for purpose as a star witness in a capital murder trial? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at just a couple of little clips, and where we see Daniel Cahill actually psychoanalyzing Aaron. And as we go into this clip now, I think it's quite clear that what Cahill is doing here is he's buying time, he's treading water, and he's trying to avoid going into more details with the lies. It's quite obvious and it's quite blatant. So we have that. Why is Cahill paddling? Why is Cahill buying time? It's very, very simple. We must reiterate this. The conversations that Daniel Cahill is alleging he had with Aaron Brady are lies. Those conversations never took place. And we have to remember the cornerstone of Aaron's campaign from the very beginning. This idea that Aaron Brady said, "I shot the cop," is physically impossible. The man who shot Detective Gill, Adrian Donahue, is over 6 feet tall. Aaron Brady is 5'7". So we're going to have a little look at this waffling by Daniel Cahill. We'll analyse it a little bit more, but more importantly, we're going to bring to the fore the information Paul Gill, Detective Jim McGovern, Garda Riley knew, and Mark Phillips, Pat Murray, the DPP, Graham Staines, are all fully aware of the details of behind Daniel Cahill and why he most certainly is not suitable for state witness in a capital murder trial. And please keep in your mind here as you watch this. Ourselves, Aaron's family, have to watch and listen to this man as we create these videos. And Aaron had to sit and look at this when he had access to his the evidence that was being used against him, which he has since been denied. And please imagine if this man was speaking about you and he was telling a tissue of lies. And I think both Aaron and the Brady family and the Brady campaign have been more than respectful as to how we have produced this campaign. So let's have a listen to Kahal talking a load of bullshit.
What detail is that? So you say earlier he went.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he went into detail about how shooting the Garda in Ireland is constantly on his conscience, and that it haunts him all the time.
He went into detail about how he can't stop thinking about it. About
okay,
how
just hold on to get this down as you're saying it. Then, yeah. So Aaron
went into
during
detail.
The conversation, yeah, went into detail. And what detail? He went into detail about
how shooting the guard has affected him.
This is what he was saying.
This is exactly what he said to me. I genuinely think he was trying to confide in somebody. I think he just needed to speak to somebody about this, because at this time he just looked like he was ready to break down completely.
So what was he saying? What is the detail about, like, what was he saying shooting the Garda had affected him? I think he was just ready to break down completely. So what other detail was he saying surrounding that aspect?
Of breaking down, or?
Yeah. How it has affected him? About his conscience?
So
how it has affected him?
He told me that, that's what he said to me, man. He told me that he has nightmares. He told me that he can't stop thinking about it.
Okay, that's what he said to me.
It was only at this point that I realised how serious he was, when I could see the emotions in it.
Say that again, that last bit. It was only at, you could see how serious, what did you say there?
It was at that point I could see how serious he was, and I could see how emotional it made him. I didn't...
Yeah.
I didn't ever consider this reality until this point.
Yeah.
At that point, I knew what he was telling me was the truth. And I had no doubt that his actions were taken.
His actions and
his words.
Yeah.
Were taken.
Yeah.
A physical effect in his life.
His action will take a full effect on his life. And that words, what do you mean by words there?
I'm not sure he really touched home that he had done this until he'd spoken about it. I'm not sure that
I'm not sure.
Came to terms with.
Sure.
I'm not sure he came to terms with what he did until he had put them into words.
I'm not sure he came to terms with what he did. like in the words that he spoke to you, is it as well? Is that what you're referring to, or?
Not just to me, but I think he was trying to live like this didn't happen, and when he said it, he had no choice but to come to terms with what he had actually done, and that wasn't part of the life that he was living.
But when he said it,
I think he had to come to terms.
I don't think I can impress upon you enough how difficult it is to watch these 5 or 6 hours of this man giving this false statement. And I think most people's assertion of what you've just watched there is that is a complete load of gibberish and fucking nonsense. Now, Jim McGovern is continually asking Cahil there, what is the detail? What is the detail of the words he spoke to you? Does anyone know, after listening to that 5 minutes, what any detail is? He's waffling. He's just filling time, filling space, waiting to get away. What he's talking about makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Now, in this clip, he's actually talking, he's trying to explain an interaction he had with Aaron. And Aaron, he said, came into the bar, he was working on at 8 p.m. And we moved right round to 6 a.m. So I don't know what sort of a coherent conversation you would have with anyone who was drinking during the day, allegedly, and then in with you at 8 o'clock, 4, another 10 hours drinking. And this man's trying to see some sort of a coherent conversation with him. And that alone in itself, that An Garda Síochána and Jim McGovern and Paul Gill, Mark Phillips, and thought this would be acceptable in any court of law. In most democratic countries, it wouldn't be. But of course, they knew they were going to have Judge White, who was going to let witnesses be attacked. He was going to let witnesses send letters from America to say that they were put under duress by An Garda Síochána, and he was going to let it all just sail over his head. And none of this was going to be questioned. He talks about, and this is very important here, I had no doubt his actions and his words were taking a physical effect on his life, and it touched him, and it came across in terms of what he had done. And it was at this point he had the reality that Aaron was telling the truth. Now, he's not sure when this happened, whether it's 2014 or 2015, but if that reality was there, why didn't he tell someone? Like, the human aspect of it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. He's walking in the bar with a load of Irish boys. He's talking to Irish people all the time, and he went into no detail about what Aaron Brady allegedly told him. He's a total mucking liar. Every word coming out of his mouth there is a lie. Now, he says he goes into his psychoanalysis. As I say, he's trying to analyse why Aaron's feeling this way, and his realisation, and what Aaron's thinking, and what his beliefs are at that moment in time. And he moves into an area that we're going to look at now in relation to Kahal himself. He's lives like this didn't happen, and he said he had to come to terms with it. So he has to pretend things didn't happen and realise your responsibility for your actions. Just going to, apologies, I have to read this, I just can't memorise it all. Pretend things didn't happen and relive your responsibility for your actions. So we're going to have a little look at Mr. Cahill's actions, but first he does go into this in this second clip, the responsibility for the actions. I want you to hear the words from his mouth, and then we'll have a little look at Daniel Cahill's actions and what this man here knew about Daniel Cahill's actions, what Jim McGovern knew about Daniel Cahill's actions, what Paul Gill knew about Daniel Cahill's actions, and of course that makes its way downstream to Brendan Graham, Lorcan Staines, who are all protecting this drug-dealing, illegal immigrant who wants to open a pizza shop and prostitute children in it. So that is who these people are protecting and his actions. So just let's have a little look at his analysis of responsibility.
Yeah, right. Now, when we speak about it, the more I think about it, it's funny how people can trick themselves into being okay with their actions while they don't have them, while they're not being coherent in their life. You know, like it's all well and good to go to your job and do your carpentry or whatever you do and go home and everything's grand and pretend that things didn't happen until you sit down and think about the things you've done and you realise that you're responsible for your actions.
So there we have Daniel Cahill's take on responsibility for your actions and what you have to come to terms with. So let us look at Daniel Cahill's credibility here. Now, the first thing I'm going to have just a quick look at, it's a message that was sent on social media when we were discussing Kahal and Maguire in particular. Anthony Gerard Maguire, the drug dealer from Northern Ireland, who also gave a statement against Aaron, but subsequently sent a letter to An Garda Síochána and to this man here, Mark Phillips, to say he didn't want to have any more to do with Aaron Brady's case, that he was put under duress to make a statement. So this is from Dermot Desmond. Respond to why Aaron ran like a pig to the US. The rhetoric of that he felt bad for his family as his pick was in the paper is trash. If he hadn't done it, he wouldn't have fled. And this campaign, all this campaign does is discredit everyone else, doesn't focus on Aaron, doesn't focus on his proven lies to the guards. He was involved. There's a couple of things just about Mr. Desmond, Dermot Desmond there. The last line is that obviously it's vitally, vitally important. This is the man, along with other trolls, said Aaron shot the guard and shot Adrian Donoghue, a scumbag, all that. We went through all those trolls. And all of a sudden, he's just saying Aaron was involved because they know the man who shot Adrian Donoghue is 6'1", and trolls like Mr. Desmond here seem to think that it's all right now, and you, Desmond, along with Mr. Anonymous, I think there's a couple more trolls sort of just hanging about, totally disrespect this man at every turn and every mouthful and every line you send on these social media comments, unless you're coming with some evidence, as we have. Your rhetoric is totally disrespectful to Yard Adrian Donoghue. You're saying with that last line there, you don't care who shot Adrian. Someone done it, it doesn't matter. Aaron Brady was involved, and that's that. Now, there's the bit, we have covered this extensively about why Aaron went to America, and there's, as we've said, was it 175,000 people in the last 12 or 18 months gone to America. There's no law against going to America. Obviously, we have spoken about it. We didn't want Aaron to leave. He left anyway because he just simply couldn't stand the newspaper coverage, and it was attacking our family. It was attacking, the papers were actually attacking our family. So he moved away. And this idea that he was away and fled and hid, nothing could be further from the truth. I want to clear this up again when we're talking about this scumbag Kahal here. Aaron didn't hide in America. Aaron was on Facebook every day, and it's well documented. And as this man says, he was crying, he didn't know what he was doing, crying into his beer. Aaron was working on heavy machinery every day in New York and was about to open his own business, go out on his own with a friend of his. So nothing could be further from the truth. He was his own name, own passport. his own name, date of birth on his license, own name, date of birth on all his work documents, his own name, date of birth on all his bank details, his own name, date of birth in with the football clubs he played with in Gaelic Park. So any suggestion that there was hiding, nothing could be further from the truth. So the line I'm interested in here is all this campaign does is discredit everyone else. Now, I did ask this man to go to An Garda Síochána if he was unhappy with anything we said about any of the witnesses, and in particular Daniel Cahill, because that's who we're working on. And anyone that is unhappy with what we are saying about Daniel Cahill, I urge you, please go into Dundalk, ask to see Superintendent Mark Phillips, and make a formal complaint if you have any concerns about Daniel Cahill, what we are saying about him here, and what we are saying about his credibility and about his status as a decent human being. So that's where we are with that. So anyone that has this idea that we're just discrediting people, please feel free to go to An Garda Síochána and lodge a complaint. And please publish it then, and we'll deal with it. More than happy to go and speak to Mark Phillips about anything we've said about these men who give false statements against Aaron. So we're going to move on now to Daniel Cahill. And during the course of Aaron's trial, this gentleman here, Mr. Kerry Bretts, give evidence from New York. Kerry Bretts, as you can see there, has over 30 years experience in immigration law in New York. And he testified Cahill should have been deported. His presence in the US under such charges was highly unusual. Now, we have to remember here that Daniel Cahill, at the time of his arrest on the 25th of July 2018, Daniel Cahill was caught with steroids and he was caught with marijuana. He was an illegal immigrant, and as you can see here from these newspaper clips, he was Kerry Bretts, the lawyer, tells us clearly that he should have been deported. And again, from this newspaper article here, you can see odd that US did not deport Garda murder witness. An immigration expert has told the Adrian Donahue murder trial that US officials would have been within their rights to deport a key prosecution witness in the case. The jury previously heard evidence from Daniel Cahill, a Dubliner living in New York, who testified that he heard the accused admit on 3 separate occasions to shooting a guard. Now, he actually expanded on that. There could be 4 or 5. It's all over the place. But we will break it down, his statement to the guards, over the coming weeks. Aaron Brady denies capital murder and robbery at Lordship Credit Union in Dundalk, County Louth on January 25th, 2013. Yesterday, a US immigration lawyer, Kerry Bretts, was called to give evidence for the defence via video link from the US. He was examined by the defence counsel, Justin McQuaid, about the circumstances in which Daniel Cahill made a statement to the Gardaí last July. The jury was previously told Mr. Cahill arrived to the US on an 80-day visa in 2013 and had no status at the time of giving the statement. He was detained at his New York apartment by Homeland Security agents and taken to Yonkers Department, where he spoke with Gardaí. Giving evidence, Mr. Cahill said he would file papers for US citizenship soon, having married an American. So this never happens, and anyone watching this, and people know that those living in America, unless your paperwork is right, you are deported. And we have to remember, Daniel Cahill was also caught with drugs in his apartment. And here's another, again, it just confirms what we're saying from the Journal. Very unusual that no further action was taken by Homeland Security against witness in Garda murder trial. US immigration expert said he had never seen a case where a visa overstayer was released. US immigration expert, now this is Mr. Kerry Bretts with over 30 years experience. US immigration expert said that he had never seen a case where a visa overstayer was released. The expert had said it was very unusual that Homeland Security officers took no action against a witness in the trial of Aaron Brady after the man was detained, having stayed beyond his 90-day limit. Kerry Bretts told defence counsel Justin McQuaid, BL, that in almost 30 years of experience practicing immigration law, he had never seen a case where a visa overstayer was released and told to file their application at a later date. Bretts told the trial that he analysed known facts regarding prosecution witness Daniel Cahill, and Kahal had previously given evidence that he had heard Brady admit that he had shot a cop. So this is a man, 30 years experience, have never seen anything like this before in America. So how, and it was not explained, all the relevant paperwork in relation to Daniel Cahill was withheld from Aaron's defence team. I'm going to move on to another incident where Dano can possibly relive his, live like this didn't happen, and when he said it, he had to come to terms with it. Well, maybe you can come to terms with what you did here, Mr. Cahill. And people must be very aware that the Gardaí sitting across from Daniel Cahill here knew perfectly well that Daniel Cahill had been in court. There was actually a court case about this machete attack, and there was a protection order served against Daniel Cahill. Unfortunately, some of the young lads of Daniel Cahill, Ed O'Keefe and Davy Cushion, attacked this night in Woodlawn, were illegal immigrants. They were overworking and they had outstayed their visa, and they were afraid to go to the police because of what happened. But you can see here, this will give you some idea. There's the picture of a gash on the head, we believe happened with the machete. And some of the text messages, so these are the text messages from the group of young people who were attacked by Cahill, Cushion and Kieran and others in Woodlawn in New York. So here's the first text message. After being covered in blood on the Sunday night, I don't think anything will faze me anymore. Well, it was Ailish that said that Gary witnessed Dano just missing brain in the chest. And she has met his uncle before. That's a good starting point. And I'm sure he won't have any trouble giving a statement. He's legal and everything. So she's actually talking there about Gary, who witnessed Dano just missing brain with the machete. So he has an uncle in the police. And they did go to the police in New York. And as I say, Daniel Cahill had a protection order. Here's another text message. You can see the bottom part of it there. He doesn't realise that he could have left two fucking children without a father on Sunday night. He's so stupid and pig-headed sometimes. Yeah, I think he is. Brian can push charges as Dano could have killed him stone dead. And I'm just going to pull up one or two more here. Sorry. Okay, well, I think Ada was the one that slashed Owen. The report is in a Class A assault. They are going to do time for this. And I'll just show you one more here. If they haven't rang myself or Owen by the time I'm at work today, then I'm calling the precinct to see what's going on. Owen told the police on Sunday night he wanted to press charges. Do you know any of the others? We were able to name three to the police. Ado, Dano and Davy. So that's Ado Kieran, Daniel Cahill and Davy Cushion. So the vital, obviously it's a disgusting attack with knives and machetes on a group of young lads out in Woodlawn in New York by Cahill and his friends. But we must understand here that the men sitting across from Cahill, Gill, Riley and McGovern, and Mark Phillips, who done the deals with Cahill, knew exactly that Daniel Cahill was involved in this attack. And we have to ask the question, why was Daniel Cahill allowed to stay in New York? Also, there's another scenario where Daniel Cahill, take this picture up here, you can see where he's sitting beside two gentlemen. The man to Daniel Cahill's right is Mr. Dean Evans. Now, this was taken a couple of weeks before Dean Evans murdered Peter Butterly in a car park in County Meath, and a week or two after Detective Gill Adrian Donahue was brutally murdered. And why this photograph is relevant is very, very simple. NYPD were alerted that Dean Evans was on the run after murdering Peter Butterly in County Meath in Ireland. Homeland Security called to Daniel Cahill's apartment. Now, we are not sure when, because this information has not been released to Aaron's defence team. But we do know, out of Daniel Cahill's own mouth during the course of his testimony, that Homeland Security had called to his apartment looking for Dean Evans. Dean Evans, at that time, was, I don't know whether he still is, member of a terrorist organisation, the Real IRA. And we have shown the photographs of Daniel Cahill with the Ryan brothers on numerous occasions. A fact that Daniel Cahill also denied. But what the question we must raise here is why Daniel Cahill was allowed to stay in New York. Was Daniel Cahill an operative for An Garda Síochána and or the American police? We're not sure. He's almost certainly some sort of operative for An Garda Síochána, and he had some sort of special status to be allowed to stay in New York. Now, the inexplicable scenario of how Kahal was allowed to stay in New York when the NYPD called looking for this man, Dean Evans, is further enhanced when we look at Daniel Cahill's own admission that he was stabbed 7 or 8 times before leaving United States of America. Now, we were aware of this as Cahill came to give his testimony in Aaron's case, but we had only heard it by word of mouth because I had investigated Cahill and Coolock, and we knew that this attack had taken place. We had no proof. And again, this man here, Brendan Graham, took it upon himself to not release this information to Aaron's defence team. So we knew nothing about this stabbing, and we knew nothing about Homeland Security calling to Cahill in New York, looking for Dean Evans, who was on the run for the murder of Peter Butterly. Now, Dean Evans was subsequently captured in Spain, extradited back to Ireland, admitted the murder, and is now imprisoned and serving a sentence for that murder. So all of these situations render Daniel Cahill an unsuitable witness in our mind. And I think any right-thinking person can see where the corruption, the collusion, the coercion, the manipulation, and the total illegal behaviour of An Garda Síochána in concert with the American authorities, guided by Homeland Security agent Matt Katsky, were fully aware of the criminal this man was. So there are more incidents and details of that Daniel Cahill were involved in. There are more scenarios where his status in America can be very seriously questioned. And what we are saying is this can't be justice. I suppose we could call it state-sponsored storytelling. That is what we are watching with Daniel Cahill's interview. With a vulnerable, highly volatile, very violent man, and he's under pressure, and he's been manipulated. He is just a pawn for Phillips, Gill and McGovern, and indeed the Irish state. He's compromised on multiple different levels. He's inconsistent. I said he's a very violent individual. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the so-called star witness as presented by the mainstream media here in Ireland. The mainstream media are fully aware of all these other issues with Daniel Cahill. Have they printed a word of it? No. Now, there was a cover-up. I did show you the stabbing incident where Patrick O'Connell done a bit of a containment piece on how Daniel Cahill was stabbed 7 or 8 times before he left Dublin. And the reason this piece was done to protect Cahill was because Cahill told us on a podcast from his, it's called the Naked and Famous podcast he done with some of his co-workers in New York. And he told us he was stabbed. And that was our first confirmation that we had known about it. But there didn't seem to be any public record of it. And we know the Gardaí hid the information in relation to the stabbing. Because we know the stabbing was reported from the hospital. Standard procedure. And on those same podcasts, we had to listen to Daniel Cahill proclaim that he would like to own a pizza shop because underneath the pizza shop, he could prostitute children. He says quite clearly, you sell a bag of weed or a bag of cocaine, and the bag of cocaine or the bag of weed's gone. But you can sell a child multiple times. Now, I don't care who you are or you're sitting around with your friends. We all sit, joke, laugh, but that's beyond the pale. And it gives an insight into the creep you watched psychoanalyzing my son. Obviously, we've said it before, the Irish public deserves the truth. And you've watched those 5 or 6 minutes of Daniel Cahill there this evening. The truth is staring you all in the face. Daniel Cahill's script is built on lies, coercion, and a cover-up for An Garda, this man, led by this man here and Pat Marry. And we go through all these things and we always come back to the memory of Detective Gill, Adrian Donoghue. And these scumbags here have hung their hat and hung the memory of their colleague and friend. Their colleague and friend. They have hung his memory, Adrian Donoghue's memory, on the hook that is Daniel Cahill. Now, we are going to go in and analyse the second part of the statement that was taken on 29th of July, where again, we seen the Gill incident with the shotgun, trying to tell Daniel, say shotgun, Daniel, say shotgun, please say shotgun. But Daniel didn't. He kept saying handgun, handgun, handgun. And we'll see where Jim tried to change it a wee bit, and the numbers in the gang, and other instances where Jim was trying to lead and coerce the mule that is Daniel Cahill. So that will be our next video. And as always, when we tell the whole Aaron story, we will be showing some clips from Cahill's interview in relation to this man here, Anthony Gerard Maguire. And Anthony Gerard Maguire's statement totally contradicted by his friend Daniel Cahill. So there we have it, folks. I will beg once again. We have been so heavily censored with this Cahill video, this Cahill stuff. We really need you to like, comment and share. We need you to contact people. I cannot express how sick it is to watch this bastard on the laptop edit and cut the pieces from the statement. How sickening it is. The girls and Caroline leave the room. They can't listen to him. I don't know how Aaron, I have no idea how Aaron in a prison cell looked at this and stayed sane. If he was anything like Daniel Cahill had described, Aaron would not be alive. And your note, Daniel Cahill, this is to you personally. Live like this didn't happen. And when he said it, he had to come to terms with it. Well, you say to yourself, Kahal, have a wee look in the mirror, like the coachman's toilet. Have a look in the mirror, Kahal, and come to terms with what you've done. You've put our son in prison for a crime he had nothing to do with and a crime he physically couldn't have committed. So Cushion, Cairns, I don't know whether Maguire, you're still in contact with him or not. Yous have done this, and we will show the world what yous have done. There's not one person in Ireland coming to your defence, you scumbags, the lot of yous. Not one person coming to your defence. Where is Mark Phillips defending you? Where is Gill and McGovern now, Daniel? Where are they? Where is Brendan Graham and Logan Staines? Our door is open to them all. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. And that door will be open until our son walks through it, a free man and his name cleared, and what you have done to him, public knowledge to the world. Please like, comment and share. We've been very heavily censored, and unfortunately I'm going to have to show you more of Daniel Cahill in the next video. Take care and see you then.